In the quiet countryside of Norfolk, where ancient oak trees cast long shadows across manicured lawns, a single flashlight beam cut through the darkness. The beam belonged to Marcus Wellington, a seasoned royal protection officer who had served the crown for 15 years. He had witnessed many unusual situations in his career, but nothing quite prepared him for what he would discover on this particular October evening. As Marcus patrolled the perimeter of Anmare Hall, the familiar crunch of gravel beneath his boots was suddenly interrupted by an unexpected sound, the soft patter of small feet running across the garden path. His training kicked in immediately, hand moving instinctively toward his radio, eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of an intruder. What he found instead would become one of the most talked-about incidents within the inner circles of the royal family, a story that would reveal the human side of royalty and the challenges of raising a spirited young prince in the modern world. The small figure caught in his flashlight beam wore pajamas decorated with dinosaurs, clutched a stuffed toy elephant, and had the unmistakable Windsor features that marked him as 5-year-old Prince Louis, Arthur Charles. This is the story of one extraordinary night that changed everything. A night that would test the boundaries between duty and compassion, between royal protocol and a child's innocent adventure, and between the public image of perfection and the very real struggles of a family trying to give their children a normal childhood while living under the constant scrutiny of the world. Marcus Wellington had been walking the same patrol route around Anmare Hall for 3 years, ever since the Prince and Princess of Wales had made the Georgian country house their primary residence. The 10-bedroom estate, gifted to them by Queen Elizabeth II, sat on the sprawling Sandringham estate in Norfolk, offering the royal couple and their 3 children a taste of normal family life away from the fishbowl existence of London. Tonight felt different, though Marcus couldn't quite put his finger on why. The October air carried an unusual chill, and the wind seemed to whisper through the ancient trees with more urgency than usual. He checked his watch, 11:47 p.m. The family had retired hours ago, with the last lights in the main house going dark around 9:30 p.m., right on schedule. As a former Royal Marines commando, Marcus took his responsibilities seriously. Protecting the future king and his family wasn't just a job, it was a calling that demanded constant vigilance. He knew every inch of the property, every potential security risk, every hiding spot where a photographer might attempt to capture candid shots of the royal children. The sound came again. Definitely footsteps, light and quick, moving across the gravel path that led from the main house toward the small cottage where Princess Catherine's parents, Michael and Carol Middleton, often stayed during extended visits. Marcus immediately switched off his flashlight and moved into the shadows, his hand reaching for the radio clipped to his vest, and standard protocol demanded he report any unusual activity immediately. But something made him pause. The footsteps were too light to belong to an adult intruder, and there was something almost playful about their rhythm. Moving carefully through the darkness, Marcus positioned himself behind a large rhododendron bush and waited. What emerged from the shadows made his breath catch in his throat. Prince Louis, the youngest of William and Catherine's 3 children, was tiptoeing across the garden wearing his favorite dinosaur pajamas and carrying what appeared to be his beloved stuffed elephant, a gift from his great-grandmother before her passing. The little boy moved with the determined purpose that only a 5-year-old on a mission could possess. Marcus's first instinct was to step forward immediately, but his experience with the royal children over the past 3 years had taught him that sometimes observation was better than immediate intervention. Louis was known within the family circle as the most adventurous of the 3 children, often getting into harmless mischief that delighted his parents and occasionally gave his protection officers minor heart attacks. The young prince made his way carefully along the path, occasionally stopping to look back at the main house, as if checking to make sure he hadn't been followed. His small form moved with surprising stealth for someone so young, suggesting this wasn't his first nighttime adventure. When he reached the cottage door, Louis stood on his tiptoes and tried the handle. Marcus found himself in a difficult position. Royal protection protocols were clear about unauthorized movement by family members, especially the children, but Prince Louis wasn't in any immediate danger. The cottage was well within the secure perimeter of the estate, and Marcus could see that the boy was simply trying to reach his grandparents, who had arrived that afternoon for what was supposed to be a surprise visit for Louis's upcoming 6th birthday. The door handle turned, and Lewis slipped inside the cottage with the quiet satisfaction of a mission accomplished. Marcus waited several minutes, listening for any sounds of distress or alarm from within the cottage, but heard only muffled voices and what sounded like delighted laughter. The Middletons had clearly been awakened by their unexpected visitor and were handling the situation with their characteristic warmth and understanding. Still, protocol was protocol, and Marcus knew he needed to alert the Prince and Princess of Wales about their son's nighttime excursion. He activated his radio, keeping his voice low and professional as he reported the situation to the duty officer stationed near the main house. Within minutes, Marcus could see lights coming on in the main house, and he knew that Prince William and Princess Catherine were being informed of their youngest son's adventure. He positioned himself near the cottage entrance, not wanting to interrupt what appeared to be a sweet family moment, but ready to provide assistance if needed. The cottage door opened about 10 minutes later, and Michael Middleton emerged wearing a dressing gown and slippers, carrying a now sleepy Prince Louis in his arms. The elderly gentleman noticed Marcus immediately and approached with a knowing smile. "I believe this young man was attempting a covert operation," Michael said quietly, his eyes twinkling with amusement. "He informed us that he had very important dinosaur facts to share and couldn't wait until morning." Louis, who had been pretending to be asleep in his grandfather's arms, opened one eye and grinned at Marcus. "Hello, Mr. Pat." "Marcus, did you see my sneaking? I was very quiet, like a T-Rex hunting." Marcus couldn't help but smile. Despite the breach in protocol, there was something endearing about the little prince's determination to share his excitement about dinosaurs with his grandparents. "Very impressive sneaking skills, Your Highness, but I think your parents might be wondering where you are." "Is Papa cross with me?" Louis asked, his lower lip starting to quiver with the uncertainty that came with being 5 years old and suddenly realizing he might be in trouble. "I think your papa will just be happy you're safe," Marcus replied, though he wasn't entirely certain what the Prince of Wales' reaction would be. William had always been understanding about his children's need for normalcy and adventure, but nighttime wanderings were a different matter entirely when it came to security concerns. As they made their way back toward the main house, Marcus reflected on the delicate balance required in his role. He wasn't just protecting future members of the royal family, he was helping to preserve their childhood in an environment where every moment was potentially scrutinized by the media and the public. Prince Louis's innocent adventure represented everything his parents were trying to maintain. A sense of normal family life where a little boy could want to share his excitement about dinosaurs with his grandparents, even if his timing wasn't ideal. The main house came into view, and Marcus could see Prince William waiting on the front steps, his expression a mixture of concern and parental exasperation. Princess Catherine appeared beside him, wrapping a robe around herself against the cool night air. Their faces showed the particular combination of relief and mild frustration that parents everywhere recognized. The look of adults who had discovered their child safe, but definitely not where they were supposed to be. Prince Louis noticed his parents waiting and immediately buried his face in his grandfather's shoulder, the bravery that had carried him through his midnight adventure suddenly deserting him in the face of parental authority. Michael Middleton chuckled softly and patted his grandson's back reassuringly. "I think someone has realized he might have some explaining to do," Michael whispered to Marcus as they approached the front steps. Prince William stepped forward as they reached the house, his expression softening as he saw his youngest son's sudden attack of shyness. Despite the irregularity of the situation, Marcus could see the love and understanding in the prince's eyes as he prepared to handle this delicate parenting moment under the watchful gaze of his security team. The night that had started as a routine patrol was becoming something much more significant, a glimpse into the real lives of one of the world's most famous families, and a reminder that behind all the titles and protocols were simply parents trying to raise their children with love, understanding, and just enough freedom to let their personalities shine through. Marcus positioned himself at a respectful distance, ready to provide his report on the evening's events, while also giving the family the privacy they needed to handle this very normal, very human moment. He found himself hoping that Prince William would see the humor in his son's adventure, rather than focusing solely on the security implications. After all, it wasn't every day that a 5-year-old future member of the royal family decided that sharing dinosaur facts with his grandparents couldn't wait until morning. and there was something wonderfully innocent about that kind of determination. The challenge now would be channeling that adventurous spirit in directions that wouldn't give the royal protection team quite so many unexpected moments. Prince William descended the front steps of Anmare Hall with the measured pace of someone who had learned, through years of public life and parenting 3 spirited children, that immediate reactions were rarely the best reactions. His bare feet were hastily tucked into Wellington boots, and his hair showed clear signs of having been pulled from sleep, but his demeanor remained calm and controlled. "Thank you, Michael," William said quietly as he approached his father-in-law, extending his arms to take Prince Louis. "And thank you, Marcus, for handling this so discreetly." Louis reluctantly transferred from his grandfather's arms to his father's, keeping his stuffed elephant clutched tightly against his chest. The little boy's eyes darted between his parents' faces, clearly trying to gauge the severity of his situation. Princess Catherine stepped closer, her maternal instincts overriding any concerns about protocol or security as she reached out to smooth her youngest son's tousled hair. "Louis Arthur Charles," she said softly, using his full name in the gentle but firm tone that mothers everywhere employed when their children had crossed a line. "What were you thinking, sweetheart?" "I wanted to tell Grandpa Mike about the new dinosaur book," Louis mumbled into his father's shoulder, his voice muffled but determined. "Miss Sarah said the Carnotaurus had horns like a bull, and I thought Grandpa would want to know right away because he likes animals." Marcus watched the exchange with professional interest and personal fascination. Miss Sarah was Sarah Peterson, the children's private tutor who came to Anmare Hall 3 days a week to supplement their education with specialized lessons that couldn't be covered at their local school. The Carnotaurus lesson had clearly made quite an impression on the young prince. Prince William exchanged a look with Princess Catherine over their son's head, and Marcus could see the silent communication that passed between them. Despite the security concerns and the disruption to household routines, their son's motivation had been innocent and even thoughtful in its own 5-year-old way. "Louis," Prince William said, adjusting his hold on his son so they could look at each other directly, "we understand that you were excited about your dinosaur facts, but leaving the house at night without telling Mummy or Daddy is dangerous. You scared us when we found your bed empty." The weight of his father's words seemed to hit Prince Louis suddenly, and his lower lip began to tremble. Marcus had seen this transformation in children before, the moment when an adventure shifted from exciting to frightening as they realized the adult implications of their actions. "I'm sorry, Papa," Louis whispered, his voice thick with tears that were threatening to fall. "I didn't mean to scare you. I just wanted to share my dinosaurs." Princess Catherine moved closer, her hand coming to rest on both her husband's arm and her son's back. "We know you didn't mean to scare us, little love. But next time you want to share something exciting, you need to wait until morning or ask permission first. Can you do that for us?" Louis nodded solemnly, then lifted his head to look at Marcus, who had been standing quietly nearby throughout the family discussion. "Mr. Marcus, are you going to tell everyone I was naughty?" The question hit Marcus unexpectedly. In his years of royal protection, he had filed countless incident reports, documented security breaches, and maintained detailed logs of family movements. But looking into the earnest face of the 5-year-old prince, he found himself considering the human element of his role in a way he hadn't before. "Prince Louis," Marcus said, crouching down to the boy's eye level while he remained in his father's arms. "My job is to keep you and your family safe. Tonight, you were safe the whole time, and you made good choices about staying on the property and going to people who love you. I think what matters most is that you've learned something about nighttime adventures." Prince William gave Marcus a grateful look over his son's head. The protection officer's response had managed to acknowledge the security concerns while also treating Prince Louis as a child learning important lessons rather than as a security breach to be documented and analyzed. Michael Middleton, who had been standing quietly during the family conversation, stepped forward with the kind of gentle authority that came from years of being a grandfather. "Louis, my boy, what do you say we make a deal? Tomorrow morning, after breakfast, you can come to the cottage and tell Grandma Carol and me all about your dinosaurs. We'll have proper tea and biscuits, and you can show us the pictures in your book." Louis's face brightened considerably at this prospect. "With the chocolate digestives?" "With the chocolate digestives," Michael confirmed with a solemn nod that suggested this was a matter of great importance. Princess Catherine smiled at her father's diplomatic solution. The Middletons had always been remarkably skilled at handling their grandchildren's enthusiasms while supporting their daughter and son-in-law's parenting decisions. Their presence at Anmer Hall provided the children with an additional layer of normal family relationships that complemented the more formal aspects of their royal upbringing. "That sounds like a perfect plan," Princess Catherine said, then turned to Marcus. "Marcus, would you mind walking with us back to the house? I think someone needs to be properly tucked back into bed." As the small group made their way toward the front entrance of Anmer Hall, Marcus found himself reflecting on the complexity of his role. Royal protection wasn't just about preventing security threats. It was about preserving the delicate balance between safety and normalcy that allowed the royal children to develop into well-adjusted individuals, despite their extraordinary circumstances. Prince Louis had fallen asleep in his father's arms by the time they reached the main staircase, his stuffed elephant dangling from one small hand while the other remained firmly attached to his father's shirt. The events of the evening had clearly exhausted him, and the emotional weight of disappointing his parents had likely contributed to his sudden fatigue. "I'll carry him up," Prince William said quietly, then paused to address Marcus. "Thank you for handling this the way you did. Your discretion and judgment made a potentially difficult situation much easier for all of us." Marcus nodded respectfully. "It's my pleasure, Your Royal Highness. Prince Louis is a remarkable child, and his curiosity about the world is something to be encouraged, even when the timing needs some adjustment." Princess Catherine paused on the bottom step of the staircase, her hand on the banister as she looked back at Marcus. "Do you have children of your own, Marcus?" The question was unexpected, crossing the usual boundaries between the royal family and their protection officers, but her tone was genuinely curious rather than intrusive. "2 daughters, Your Royal Highness, 8 and 10 years old. They're quite fascinated by the idea that I work with a real prince and princess. Then you understand the challenge of balancing their need for adventure with their need for safety," Princess Catherine said with a knowing smile. "It's particularly complicated when their adventures have security implications." "It is indeed, ma'am. Though I have to say, my daughter's midnight adventures usually involve sneaking downstairs to read with flashlights under blankets, not visiting grandparents in separate buildings." Prince William chuckled quietly, careful not to disturb the sleeping child in his arms. "Give them time. I'm sure they'll develop more creative approaches to nighttime exploration." As the Prince and Princess of Wales disappeared upstairs with their sleeping son, Marcus made his way back outside to complete his patrol rounds. The night had returned to its normal quiet, but the events of the past hour had given him a new perspective on his role in protecting this particular family. He thought about his own daughters and how they would react to learning about Prince Louis's dinosaur-motivated adventure. They would probably be impressed by his stealth skills and sympathetic to his desire to share exciting information with his grandparents immediately rather than waiting until morning. The incident would need to be documented, of course, but Marcus found himself hoping that his report would capture not just the security aspects of the situation, but also the very human story of a little boy who loved dinosaurs so much that he couldn't wait until morning to share his new knowledge with the grandparents he adored. Walking the perimeter of Anmer Hall in the quiet darkness, Marcus reflected on the privilege of witnessing these intimate family moments. The world saw the Prince and Princess of Wales as future monarchs, but tonight he had simply seen them as parents, dealing with a spirited 5-year-old who happened to have very strong opinions about dinosaurs and very poor timing when it came to sharing them. Dawn broke over Anmer Hall with the soft golden light that made Norfolk mornings particularly beautiful in October. Marcus Wellington had finished his night shift an hour earlier, but instead of heading directly home, he had lingered in the security office to complete his incident report from the previous evening. The report was proving more challenging to write than usual, as he struggled to capture the events in a way that satisfied security protocols while preserving the dignity and privacy of the royal family. At 7:30 a.m., he could see movement in the main house as the family began their morning routine. Prince George and Princess Charlotte appeared first in the kitchen windows, still in their school uniforms as they prepared for another day at Lambrook School. Princess Catherine could be seen moving efficiently through her morning tasks, preparing breakfast and organizing the children's school bags, with the practiced efficiency of a mother managing 3 active children. There was no sign yet of Prince Louis, which wasn't unusual for the youngest member of the family, who often needed extra encouragement to transition from sleep to wakefulness. Marcus found himself wondering if the events of the previous night would affect the little prince's mood this morning, or if he would wake up with the resilient optimism that seemed to characterize 5-year-olds everywhere. His question was answered when Prince Louis appeared at his bedroom window around 8 a.m., still wearing his dinosaur pajamas and clutching his stuffed elephant. The little boy pressed his nose against the glass and waved enthusiastically when he spotted Marcus in the security office. His smile was bright and untroubled, suggesting that any lingering concerns about his nighttime adventure had been resolved by a good night's sleep and the prospect of a dinosaur-themed breakfast with his grandparents. Marcus waved back, relieved to see that Prince Louis seemed to harbor no lasting anxiety about the previous evening's events. Children were remarkably resilient, and it appeared that his parents' gentle but firm response had provided exactly the right balance of understanding and guidance. Around 9 a.m., after Prince George and Princess Charlotte had been driven to school by their usual protection detail, Marcus noticed unusual activity around the cottage, where the Middletons were staying. Princess Catherine emerged from the main house carrying what appeared to be a breakfast tray, followed by Prince Louis, who was now properly dressed and carrying an armload of dinosaur books. Michael Middleton met them halfway between the cottage and the main house, his face beaming with the anticipation of a grandfather about to be educated about prehistoric creatures by his enthusiastic grandson. The scene was so normal, so wonderfully ordinary, that Marcus found himself smiling despite his professional composure. "Good morning, Mr. Reveille." "Marcus!" Prince Louis called out as the small group passed near the security office. "I'm going to tell Grandpa about the Carnotaurus now, at the proper time." "That sounds like an excellent plan, Your Highness," Marcus replied, noting with approval that the little prince seemed to have internalized the lesson about timing from the previous evening. Princess Catherine paused briefly near the security office. "Marcus, thank you again for last night. William and I appreciate your discretion and understanding." "Of course, Your Royal Highness. I hope Prince Louis enjoys his dinosaur breakfast." "Oh, I'm quite certain he will. My father has been reading dinosaur encyclopedias since dawn, preparing for what he's calling the most important paleontology briefing of his career." After this, watched as the 3 generations made their way to the cottage, noting how Princess Catherine had managed to transform what could have been a disciplinary follow-up into a celebration of her son's interests. It was this kind of thoughtful parenting that made protecting this particular family both challenging and rewarding. An hour later, Marcus was finally preparing to leave for home when he noticed Prince William approaching the security office. The Prince of Wales was dressed casually in jeans and a sweater, looking more like a country gentleman than a future king, as he enjoyed his Saturday morning. "Marcus, do you have a moment?" Prince William asked, settling into one of the chairs in the small office. "I wanted to discuss last night's events with you." Marcus straightened in his chair, unsure whether this conversation would focus on security protocols or parenting strategies. "Of course, Your Royal Highness. First, I want to thank you for the way you handled Louis's adventure. Your decision to observe rather than immediately intervene allowed us to understand his motivations better, and your gentle approach with him afterward helped reinforce our family conversation rather than undermining it. Thank you, sir. Prince Louis is a remarkable child with a natural curiosity about the world. It seemed important to respond to his intentions rather than just his actions." Prince William nodded thoughtfully. "That's exactly what Catherine and I try to do as well. It's not always easy, especially when their curiosity leads them into situations that have security implications. If I may ask, sir, how are you planning to address the security aspects of what happened?" "That's actually what I wanted to discuss with you," Prince William said, leaning forward slightly. "Catherine and I have been talking about how to maintain the children's sense of freedom and normalcy while ensuring their safety. Last night highlighted some gaps in our current approach." Marcus waited, understanding that this was likely leading to changes in protocol that would affect his work. "We're going to implement some new measures," Prince William continued, "and motion sensors in the children's bedrooms that alert the duty officer if they leave after bedtime, additional security lighting along the paths between buildings, and regular family discussions about property boundaries and safety." "Those sound like sensible precautions, sir," We're also going to create what we're calling adventure opportunities for the children. Planned activities that satisfy their need for exploration and independence while keeping them safe. Lewis's love of discovery is something we want to encourage, not discourage. Marcus found himself impressed by the thoughtful approach the prince and princess were taking to this challenge. Rather than simply increasing restrictions, they were looking for ways to channel their children's natural instincts in positive directions. "There's one more thing," Prince William said, and his tone became slightly more serious. "I know you'll need to file a report about last night's incident, and I understand that there are protocols you need to follow. I just ask that you consider the human element of what happened when you're documenting it. I've already drafted the report, sir, and I've focused on the security lessons learned, rather than treating Prince Louis's actions as a breach of protocol. He was never in danger. He stayed within the secure perimeter, and he went to trusted family members. From a security perspective, he actually made several good decisions." Prince William's relief was visible. "Thank you. That means a great deal to Catherine and me. We never want our children to feel that their natural curiosity or their relationships with their grandparents are seen as security problems to be solved. If I may say so, sir, having observed all 3 children over the past few years, you and Princess Catherine are doing an exceptional job of raising them to be both secure in their identities and grounded in normal family relationships. Prince Louis's desire to share his excitement with his grandparents actually reflects very positively on the family environment you've created." "That's very kind of you to say, Marcus. It's not always easy to know if we're striking the right balance between their royal responsibilities and their need to be children." As Prince William prepared to leave the security office, Marcus reflected on how unusual this conversation had been. In most protection assignments, discussions with principals focused exclusively on security procedures and threat assessments. But the Prince of Wales had approached this situation primarily as a father seeking to understand how to better support his child's development while maintaining necessary safety measures. "One final question, sir," Marcus said as Prince William reached the door. "How did Prince Louis react this morning when he woke up?" Prince William's face broke into a broad smile. "He appeared at our bedroom door at 6:30 a.m. with his dinosaur encyclopedia, wanting to make sure he had all his facts straight for his presentation to Grandpa. When Catherine asked if he remembered why it was important to wait until morning for adventures, he said, 'Because nighttime is for sleeping, and sharing is for when everyone is awake and ready to learn.' It sounds like he understood the lesson perfectly." Though Catherine and I are now prepared for the possibility that our son's next great enthusiasm might also result in unexpected scheduling challenges. Apparently, Miss Sarah is planning a unit on space exploration next week. Marcus chuckled, imagining Prince Louis's potential reaction to learning about astronauts and space missions. "I'll make sure the night patrol is particularly vigilant, sir." As Prince William walked back toward the cottage where his son was undoubtedly regaling his grandparents with detailed information about prehistoric predators, Marcus finally completed his incident report. He had managed to document the events of the previous evening in a way that satisfied security requirements, while preserving the story of a little boy who loved dinosaurs so much that he couldn't wait until morning to share his knowledge with the grandparents he adored. Looking out toward the cottage, where he could see animated gestures through the window, suggesting that Prince Louis's paleontology presentation was in full swing, Marcus felt a deep satisfaction with his role in protecting this remarkable family. It wasn't just about preventing security threats. It was about preserving the space where a future member of the royal family could still be a 5-year-old boy excited about dinosaurs and eager to share that excitement with the people he loved most. 3 months after the dinosaur incident, Marcus Wellington found himself reflecting on how significantly that October evening had changed the dynamics at Anmere Hall. What had started as a simple security breach had evolved into something much more meaningful, a catalyst for conversations about childhood, freedom, and the unique challenges of raising royal children in the modern world. The changes Prince William had mentioned that Saturday morning had been implemented gradually and thoughtfully. Motion sensors now provided discreet monitoring of the children's movements during nighttime hours, but they were calibrated to alert security only if the children left the main house entirely. This allowed for normal childhood activities like trips to the bathroom, or getting drinks of water without triggering unnecessary alarms. More significantly, the adventure opportunities that had been promised for the children had become a regular feature of life at Anmare Hall. Every Saturday morning, weather permitting, became designated as exploration time, when Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis could choose special activities around the estate under the watchful but unobtrusive eye of their protection team. Marcus had been present for several of these Saturday adventures and had watched with professional admiration as Princess Catherine and Prince William balanced their children's need for independence with necessary security considerations. Prince Louis, in particular, had thrived under this new arrangement, channeling his adventurous spirit into sanctioned explorations that satisfied his curiosity while keeping the security team's stress levels manageable. The little prince had become something of a celebrity within the protection detail, not just for his midnight dinosaur mission, but for his ongoing enthusiasm for sharing his latest educational discoveries with anyone willing to listen. Marcus had become an inadvertent expert on various topics ranging from medieval castle construction to the migration patterns of Arctic terns, thanks to Prince Louis's determination to keep his friend, Mr. Marcus, properly informed about important scientific matters. On this particular January morning, Marcus was completing what would be his final shift at Anmare Hall before transferring to a new assignment with the Royal Protection Command in London. The transfer was a promotion that would advance his career significantly, but he found himself surprisingly reluctant to leave this particular post. As he conducted his morning patrol, Marcus reflected on how much his understanding of royal protection had evolved during his time with the Prince and Princess of Wales and their children. When he had first arrived at Anmare Hall, he had approached his duties with a strictly professional mindset, focused primarily on threat assessment and protocol adherence. The dinosaur incident had marked a turning point in his approach to the role. Witnessing the family's response to Prince Louis's adventure had shown him that effective protection sometimes required understanding the human dynamics at play rather than simply following established procedures. The prince and princess had demonstrated that maintaining their children's emotional well-being and sense of normalcy was just as important as ensuring their physical safety. This philosophy had proven itself repeatedly in the months that followed. When Princess Charlotte had decided to build an elaborate fairy garden in a section of the estate that was technically outside the designated play areas, Marcus and his colleagues had worked with the family to expand the secure perimeter rather than simply forbidding the project. When Prince George had wanted to learn to drive the small tractor used for estate maintenance, security protocols were adapted to allow supervised lessons rather than an outright prohibition. These accommodations required more complex planning and additional resources, but they preserved the children's ability to pursue their interests and develop their independence within a secure environment. Marcus had come to understand that this balance was essential not just for the children's current happiness, but for their development into adults who could handle their future royal responsibilities with confidence and authenticity. At 9 a.m., Marcus made his way to the main house for his final security briefing with Prince William. Over the past 3 months, these briefings had evolved from formal protocol reviews into more collaborative discussions about the family's needs and the security team's capabilities. The Prince of Wales had proven to be remarkably engaged with the practical aspects of protecting his family, often suggesting creative solutions to security challenges. "Marcus," Prince William said as he entered the study that served as an informal security office, "I understand today is your last day with us." "Yes, sir. I'll be transitioning to the London detail next week. We're going to miss you. You've become more than just a protection officer to this family. You've become someone who understands what we're trying to achieve here." Marcus felt genuinely moved by the prince's words. "It's been an honor to serve your family, sir. These 3 years have taught me a great deal about the importance of adapting security measures to support family life rather than simply imposing restrictions. That's exactly what we've been trying to do," Prince William said, settling into his chair. "Catherine and I believe that our children's ability to have as normal a childhood as possible will serve them well in their future roles. Your understanding of that balance has been invaluable." There was a knock on the study door, and Princess Catherine entered carrying a tea tray, followed by all 3 children. Marcus was surprised by this unexpected gathering, as family interactions with individual protection officers were usually more limited in scope. "We wanted to say goodbye properly," Princess Catherine explained, setting down the tea tray. "The children have something they'd like to give you." Prince Louis stepped forward first, carrying a carefully wrapped package that was slightly too large for his small hands to manage easily. "Mr. Marcus, we made you a book about all our adventures so you won't forget us when you go to London." Marcus accepted the package with genuine curiosity, unwrapping it to reveal a handmade scrapbook filled with photographs, drawings, and written accounts of various family activities over the past 3 years. The dinosaur incident was prominently featured, complete with Prince Louis's artistic interpretation of himself, sneaking like a T-Rex, and a photo of his subsequent dinosaur breakfast with his grandparents. "This is extraordinary," Marcus said, turning through pages that captured countless moments of normal family life against the backdrop of one of Britain's most famous estates. "You've all put so much work into this." Princess Charlotte, now 9 years old and increasingly articulate, spoke up with the confidence that came from being the middle child in a household that encouraged self-expression. "We wanted to show you all the times you helped us have proper adventures, instead of just saying no to everything." Approaching his 11th birthday, and becoming more aware of the complexities of his family's public role, added, "Mummy and Papa told us how you helped them understand that keeping us safe doesn't mean we can't explore and learn things." "That's very thoughtful of all of you," Marcus replied, genuinely touched by the gesture. "I've learned just as much from watching your family as you might have learned about staying safe during your adventures." Prince William stood up and extended his hand to Marcus. "I want you to know that your approach to protecting our family has influenced how we think about security going forward. The officer who replaces you will be briefed on the principles you've helped us establish here. I'm grateful to have been part of developing those principles, sir. I hope they continue to serve your family well as the children grow older." Princess Catherine approached with an envelope bearing the family's personal seal. "This is a recommendation letter for your personnel file," she explained. "We've detailed your contributions to our family's security and well-being, and we've specifically mentioned your ability to balance professional obligations with human understanding." As the formal goodbye concluded and the family began to disperse, Prince Louis lingered behind, clearly having something important to communicate privately to Marcus. "Mr. Marcus," the little prince said, his voice carrying the serious tone he used when discussing matters of great importance, "when I'm a grown-up prince, I want my security people to be like you. Someone who helps children be safe but still have fun." Marcus knelt down to Prince Louis's eye level, understanding that this 6-year-old was expressing something profound about his future expectations for the role of protection in his life. "That's a wonderful goal, Your Highness. Always remember that the people who work to keep you safe want you to be happy and to have experiences that help you learn about the world. Good security should help you live your life, not prevent you from living it." "I'll remember," Prince Louis promised solemnly, then brightened with his characteristic enthusiasm. "Will you come visit us sometimes? I'm learning about volcanoes now, and I have very important facts about lava. I would be honored to hear about volcanoes the next time I visit Anmer Hall," Marcus replied, making a mental note to actually follow through on this promise. As Marcus packed his personal belongings from the security office and prepared to transition to his new assignment, he reflected on how the dinosaur incident had ultimately benefited everyone involved. Prince Louis had learned important lessons about timing and communication while retaining his natural curiosity and enthusiasm. His parents had developed more nuanced approaches to balancing security with childhood development. The security team had learned to be more flexible and creative in their protective strategies. Most importantly, the incident had demonstrated that effective royal protection in the modern era required understanding the human dynamics of the families being protected. Children needed to be children, parents needed to be parents, and security measures needed to support those fundamental relationships rather than interfering with them. As Marcus drove away from Anmer Hall for the final time as a resident protection officer, he carried with him not just professional experience, but a deep appreciation for the complexity and privilege of protecting a family that was working so hard to raise normal, happy children under extraordinary circumstances. The handmade scrapbook sat on the passenger seat beside him, a tangible reminder of how a 5-year-old's midnight dinosaur expedition had ultimately taught everyone involved valuable lessons about the intersection of security, childhood, and family life. It was, Marcus reflected, Exactly the kind of unexpected education that made royal protection work both challenging and deeply rewarding. He looked forward to his new assignment, but he would always remember the night when Prince Louis taught him that sometimes the best security response was to understand why a little boy couldn't wait until morning to share his excitement about dinosaurs with the grandparents he loved.